Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Faiz.
I'm Zakwan.
I'm Alhasyir Zaim.
I'm Rahman.
I'm Hakimi.
And today we'll be presenting on the topic of materialism worldview. First of all, allow me to briefly explain what materialism worldview actually is. Materialism is the belief that the physical world is the only reality. According to this view, everything including life, mind, and human thoughts are explained only through physical processes. It rejects anything non-physical or spiritual and says all phenomena come from interaction and only physical matter. For Muslims, studying materialism is important because it helps us understand modern ideas that may clash with the Islamic teachings. By learning about this worldview, Muslims can analyze it critically, strengthen their faith, and join modern discussion with their understanding.
So now I will be moving on to the next point, which is the concept of materialism worldview. Materialism is the belief that everything in the universe is made of physical substance and nothing exists beyond the material world. According to this view, matter is primary reality and all living beings, including humans, are entirely composed of matters. This means that ideas, consciousness, and mental process depend on the physical brain and cannot exist on their own. Materialism also teaches that the universe operates according to natural law without supernatural influence. So things like biological process or the motion of planets can be explained through predictable scientific rules. However, from the Islamic worldview, this perspective is incomplete. Islam teaches that the soul, which is the ruh, exists independently of the body, and human consciousness and moral responsibilities are not just physical process. Islam also affirms that Allah controls the universe and natural laws functions only by His wills. Because of this, materialism is seen as limited and not fully aligned with Islamic belief about spiritual reality and divine powers. Historical development of materialism worldview. Materialism started with early Greek thinkers in the 6th century BCE in a place called Miletus. Philosophers like Thales, Anaximander, and Anaximenes tried to explain the world using natures, not myths or gods. They looked for one basic material that made everything. Later, during classical Greece, thinkers such as Heraclitus and Aristotle agreed that matter is the base of all things, living or non-living. Their ideas shaped long debates with later philosophers like Plato, Aquinas, and Hegel about what is real and how matters works. In modern time, materialism expands in three categories, which is the first one is Marx and Engels creates dialectical materialism, focusing on society, history, and economy. Second, Mario Bunch introduced systemic materialism, explaining how matter forms complex system. The last one is Gustavo Bueno proposed discontinuous materialism, which sees realities as made of separate material parts. Overall, materialism grew from simple natural ideas into a full worldview that tries to explain the physical universe and how its parts connect.
My name is Alhasyir Zaim, and I will talk about the characteristic of materialism. Okay, materialism basically says that everything in society, including our thoughts, come from material conditions, especially the economy. According to Borov, 1975, society's structure and even human consciousness are shaped by economic force and how things are produced. So, materialism focus on real physical factors and abstract ideas. A key point of materialism is that the mind is a product of conditions. Our beliefs and actions come from the economic world we live in. According to Elster, it explains that the institutions and ideologies form because of material conditions, not because of spiritual and moral ideas inside the people. In simple words, materialism puts the material world first, and the material world shapes ideas, not the other way around. That's all from me. Thank you.
So, thank you, Brother Alhasyir. Next, I'll be moving on to another key in materialism. It focuses on the physical and tangible parts of human life. Turner 2008 explained that our bodies, needs and environment shape how we interact and how cultures go. So, materialism puts practical things like food, work, health, resources and the environment at the center of understanding society. From this view, society doesn't develop because of ideas or value first. Instead, it develops because of changes in material conditions such as technology, labor system and economic structure.
My name is Hakimi bin Aizam Hamidie. So today I will talk about the impact of the ideology materialism. So according to the Mother 2021, North Korea and China has the most population of the non-religious, which is atheism and materialism ideology. So this country is the largest population of the non-religious person due to the government that practice the communism system in their country over the decades. So the citizens are forced to register themselves as a non-religious person, and there is no foundation of the religious there. There is also a prohibited where there is can't do any kind or they can perform any style of the religious activity. They also adhere the economic and scientific principle. So this can lead to the impact to the individual, such as loss of meaning, where the individual struggle to find a deeper purpose in life without a spiritual framework. It can also contribute to denying spiritual copying. Materialism cannot rely on spiritual copying when someone in a grief or stress out themselves. That's all from me.
My name is Abdul Rahman Danish bin Malik. The primary strength of materialism lies in its consistency with the scientific principles. Science is based on forming testable hypotheses and conducting experiments. For this to work, we need a stable, predictable reality where observations are reliable and can be repeated. Materialism supports this by focusing on the material works, which provide the foundation for scientific investigations. However, this also means that anything that non-material or anything that does not produce material effect cannot be studied by scientific method. As a result, materialism tend to reject the existence of the unseen simply because it cannot be measured, not because it disproven. In contrast, Islam does not reject science or empirical observation. In fact, Islam encourages knowledge, reflections and scientific advancements. Historically, many great Muslim scholars such as Al-Khwarizmi, Ibn Sina and many more contribute to mathematics, medicine, astronomy and philosophy, which is science itself. The Quran itself encourages scientific observation in Surah Fussilat verse 53, which is, this verse affirms that studying the natural world can lead to recognizing the truth without denying the existence of the unseen. Despite of its strengths, materialism also has several major weaknesses. The most important is its reductionist approach to human experience by limiting reality only to what is physical, observable. Material struggles to explain non-material aspects such as consciousness, intentionality, moral value, spiritual and human purpose. These dimensions of human experience cannot be fully explained by physical matter alone. Another weakness is that materialism often fails to provide a firm foundation for objective morality. If everything is only matter, then moral value become evolution behavior or social construct that only apply to scientific rather than universal truths. The philosopher Alexander Mackerel described this as a moral fragmentation where ethical judgment lost their universal and binding nature. In contrast, Islam firmly boasts the material worlds and metaphysical realms. This includes objective of morality rooted in divine revelation, which give ethics and strong coherent foundations. Islam also recognizes the human being as more than just a physical body. The Quran emphasizes existence of the soul, which cannot be reduced to material component, which is in Surah Al-Isra verse 85. Allah Subhanahu wa Taala highlight that human consciousness has a divine and non-physical origin, something material cannot be fully explained.
And finally, for the last part, let's jump onto the conclusion. Materialism views reality as entirely physical, explaining human life consciousness and morality through national process alone. While this aligns with the scientific study, it limits understanding to what can be observed or measured. Islam, however, recognizes both material world and the unseen, affirming the existence of the soul and divine purpose. Therefore, materialism helps explain how the world works, but the Islamic perspective provides a more holistic understanding of humans' existence. Thank you.
Guys, honest question. We're doing this materialism assignment, right? But I still don't get how people believe that only physical things are real. Like, no raw, no unseen, no soul, and just matter.
Bro, that's exactly what materialism says. If to them, if you can see, if you can touch, if you can measure it, it doesn't exist. Even your feelings and consciousness, just neurons and chemicals.
Right, materialists believe matter is the only primary reality in life. So things like soul, consciousness or morality, they say that all of that only comes from the brain, not from something spiritual.
So, if something cannot be detected by machine, is it automatically fake?
Honestly, yes. Materialists also argue everything runs only on natural laws. No miracle and no divine interventions. The universe is like a machine that running by itself and have no higher power.
You can see that this mindset is everywhere in the society, where people think that they have to own the branded items, brand new phones or expensive lifestyle, as if that is what make them valuable. People these days measure people's worth by what they own, not who they are.
Yes, I agree with you. That's the deeper impact of materialism. When you believe only the physical world is real, and you end up thinking happiness is money, success is possessions, meaning is career, and also truth is only what science can prove. It's reduced like to just life, which is just materialistic stuff.
The exact thing that you said just now, Islam totally disagree with that. Islam acknowledges natural law. Gravity exists, biology exists, and physics is real. But this law operates under Allah's full command. It doesn't happen naturally. So the difference between materialism and Islam is that materialism, nature controls everything. However, in Islam, Allah controls nature and everything else. So, materialism worldview fully contradicts with Islamic worldview. They only believe in the materialistic stuff, whereas we don't do that.
Okay, so Islam accepts science but doesn't limit truth to only what science can measure.
Exactly. For example, we can look at the China and the North Korea country, where they are emphasized to practice the atheism and materialism worldview. The religion is prohibited. Economic and sciences were prioritized. This caused millions of people with no foundation of religion.
Yes, I agree with you. When spiritual is removed, people often feel apathy, directionless, uncertainty about morality, and also unable to cope during hardship. Where materialism obviously can produce wealth and progress, but it cannot produce inner peace or create objective in human life.
In addition, materialism does have strengths and it fits science well. because science study physical things. But the problem is, when materialism tries to explain everything using physical studies, it ignores the spiritual sides of human existence.
Yes, exactly. Islam supports science, but not the idea that physical is the only thing that there is. Like we have Muslim scholars like Ibn Sina, Al-Khwarizmi. They were scientists and believers at the same time. They understood the material world, but they also acknowledged the metaphysical realm. So Islam provides a more complete worldview, both material and spiritual.
So, the main difference is materialism says only matter exists, while Islam says matter does exist, so does the raw, the unseen, and divine purpose.
Yes, exactly. We can see people in this world with high wealth but low happiness. They have everything that they have, but they lost the meaning of their life. This is all because of the foundation of the materialism.
Yes, that's why our assignment concludes that materialism is powerful scientifically, but it's weak as a worldview because it cannot explain consciousness, moral truths, spiritual experience, and the unseen. And in the end, it's incomplete.
Oh, guys, this whole discussion feels like an assignment itself. We should submit this as a video.
Materialism is the view that nothing but physical matter exists. To a materialist, there's no such thing as the supernatural, and nothing can be that is not comprised of physical components. Materialism is a metaphysical stance in that it denies metaphysics altogether, as there can be nothing beyond physics when the physical is all that there is. This position obviously denies the existence of any god or of a soul. This position claims that there can be no immaterial component to the mind as well. Materialism is almost always tied to atheism, but materialists can be of all sorts when it comes to epistemology, ethics, etc. Despite its popularity these days, this stance is not new. It has taken on a new form since the advent of modern science, however. Now, people are confident that science will eventually find a materialistic explanation to everything.